Halloween night. Stereotypical, I know. Several years ago, I was followed home by a stranger. I worked at a large mall about an hour away from home. The store was closed at 10 p.m., and the only bus home ran every hour and only dropped me off 2/3 of the way home, and I would have to walk the rest. This usually happened between 11 to 1 a.m. at night, depending on if I could get the store closed down on time and if the bus wasn't too packed for me to get on. I am not a small woman. I am fairly tall and fairly round and not the most attractive. My uniform was just a polo shirt and black trousers, flat shoes, all covered with a thick coat. I didn't see him get on the bus. To be fair, the bus was packed and noisy, and the walkways were crowded, and I did my best to just block it all out with my headphones and stare out the window. I am not a people person, and having been at work for 12 hours on a busy day, surrounded by these awful people, I was just pissed off and desperate to get off the bus and be alone. When we finally got to my stop, and I managed to struggle my way to the front of the bus through people that refused to move, I stumbled into the night air and breathed a sigh of relief. A couple of people got off the bus behind me, and I started up the hill, crossing the road to continue up the side street that led to my road. This side street is very long and has offshoots into residential streets on very steep hills going down. The street itself is lined with small shops, and there's a high grassy bank on the opposite side that has houses along the top, so it feels very isolated after the shops close down. Very few people get off at my bus stop this time of night, and even fewer head in the same direction. Those that do cut off and go down one of these hills long before I get to the hill that leads up to my building. Now, the street isn't very well lit. The street lamps are few and far between. Several of them are motion activated, so they don't even turn on until you're right on top of them. I've walked home in the dark this way 1,000 times, and I've walked to work this way at 3 or 4 in the morning 1,000 times too. That was for a different job. While I always enjoy the cool night air, I am not afraid of the dark, and I love how bright the stars are where I live. I don't loiter. I walk fast so I can get home and shower as soon as possible. This night, I noticed someone walking behind me. I usually do because, like I stated above, very few people walk this way at this time of night. I was aware of him and waiting for him to turn down one of the side streets. He didn't. It felt a little weird, but I'm not the only person that lives in the area, so maybe he just isn't regularly walking this way at this time of night, so I've just never seen him before. I get to the medical surgery and car park at the bottom of my hill and cut across it as I always do. At this point, I know if he also heads up my hill, I need to worry a little more. The hill goes alongside the surgery, and then there are high walls on my side of the street that block off the flats in the other side from my road. They can only be accessed from the road before mine. At the top of the hill, this wall ends and turns into an alley that runs parallel to my building. The opposite side of the road has multiple closed pubs, a closed corner store, and an old church that has been converted into a Muslim worship center, which is also closed. There are even less street lamps here, and my building is surrounded by a metal fence with 20 or so feet of grass that slopes down to the entrance of the building, where the doorway is lit up. The point is, it's isolated, and the only reason someone should be up here this time of night is if they live in my building. This guy crosses the car park after me, and now I'm feeling concerned. I know he doesn't live in my building. There are 9 flats over 3 floors, and 10 people. I know all of them, and they all know me. We would recognize each other even at this level of darkness. So, I walk faster up the hill, hoping to get into the building before he catches up. He starts walking faster too. I can hear him gaining on me, and by the time that I get to the gate, I know that he's too close to me for me to be able to open the door and get inside before he's on me. The building is dark and I know everyone is in bed, and it makes me feel all alone, and at this point, I'm crapping myself. So, thinking quickly, I cross the road and walk further up the hill behind parked cars. I use the opportunity to swing my backpack off of one shoulder and grab my keys. I wait for him to follow me and get behind the cars too, so it'll take just a little longer for him to be able to cross back over before I bolt across the road, throwing open the gate. I swing it hard behind me because he's now running at me, and I think it will either latch before he can catch it, or it will hit him. Either way, it'll buy me a few seconds. I slide down the slope, barely staying on my feet because it's dangerously slippery when it's wet. I turn the corner at the bottom and slam my keycard on the reader, pressing hard on the heavy door before it beeps so it will open that much faster. The door is heavy and on a fire safety hinge. That means I can't slam it or force it closed. The stairs are a couple of steps into the building, and to the left. I live on the top floor. It's not a big building. 3 flats on each floor, 2 flights of stairs. It's also a concrete stairwell, so every little sound echoes and can be heard behind closed doors. I get inside the building and immediately bolt up the stairs. I'm only a few steps up when the door flies open behind me, and this guy comes after me. Feeling a little more secure now that I'm in my building, and only feet away from my neighbors, I spin around before he reaches me and slam my heavy backpack into him. He falls back to the landing and manages to catch himself by grabbing a hold of the handrail. I scream, "What the heck?" at the top of my lungs, and I hold my bag in front of me. Now we're inside and the stairwell is lit by the motion-activated lights. I get my first proper look at him. He's a little taller than me. I'm 5'8". He's black and old enough to be graying. His clothes are weird, all made out of that weird waxy material some weatherproof jackets are made of, and he's wearing heavy boots. I don't recognize him at all. and he looks up at me with wide eyes as I stare down at him. I'm fully prepared to kick him in the face and throw my bag if I have to. I don't want him to be able to follow me into my flat, so I stare him down. He begins to stutter, hands ringing over the handrail and ducking his head a little, trying to look pathetic and harmless. He mutters something about visiting his son. Like I stated before, 9 people other than me live in this building. At that time, none of them were black, and none of them other than myself were young enough for him to be their parent. Even if his son did live here, how would he know to follow me off of the bus to get to my building? Why did he follow me when I moved away from my building? And why did he chase after me? He could have walked to the building and buzzed up to his son for him to let him in if that was even true. I began shouting at him to get out, repeating those words over and over again, sprinkling in, "I don't know you and you don't live here." He continues muttering, making his excuses, but I shout over him. When I hear neighbors moving around and coming towards their doors, probably to look through their peepholes, I begin to back up the stairs. My neighbor is right at the bottom of the stairs behind the man, opens her door, leaving her chain and peering through at us. She asks me if I'm okay and if she needs to call the police. The guy spins to stare at her, his hands out in a stop motion, and I hear another neighbor open his door behind the stairs, also on the ground level. He calls out to ask if everything is okay too, and I just yell out to the both of them, "He followed me home. I don't know him. He won't leave." I'm now at the top of the first step of stairs, still looking down at him. My male neighbor starts telling him to get the heck out, either more intimidated by the man than he was me, or realizing that he was outnumbered. He begins trying to open the front door. You have to press a button to get it to open, and he clearly doesn't know this. Further evidence that he's never been here before. Feeling more secure now that I'm not alone, and he's trying to leave, I bolt across the landing and up the final flight of stairs, and get my door open before locking it behind me. I was dripping in sweat and very close to a panic attack. I dragged my Hoover to the front door and propped it up, just in case someone tried to open my door, and I would hear it fall. I didn't sleep very well that night, listening to every sound in the building, and luckily, I didn't have to work the next day. I woke up at about 6 a.m. to a lot of sound in the building's landings. I could hear people opening every bin, chute room, and coming back out again. I peered through my peephole to see uniformed policemen searching the common areas of the building. I didn't call the police, but I assume one of the neighbors downstairs did. The bin rooms are fairly large, so I imagine they were checking to see if someone was hiding. I don't know for sure, and I didn't ask, other than asking me if I was okay when we saw each other next. The neighbors that helped out that night never said anything else about it. I don't know who he was or what he wanted. I've never seen him again, and I stopped working at that shopping center a couple of years later. I do feel guilty for not calling the police, just in case he had done this before or since, and the women didn't manage to get away. But at the time, I just wanted to forget about it and move forward. I want to start off by saying that I'm a stay-at-home mom. A very stay-at-home loner mom, and with my family so far away, it didn't feel right to have them worry. I just wanted to tell my story, whether someone reads it or not, it doesn't really matter. I'm not a writer by any means, and this was just my thoughts and a recap of my night. Tonight, I tucked my oldest kid into bed and on my way out to the new nightly ritual of feeding my neighbor's cat, my husband made a joke about wanting corn dogs from 7-Eleven. I don't get out much and don't mind, so I said we needed milk anyways and we went on our way. The neighbors were uneventful, except for one cat hooked her nail into my middle finger when I was giving her treats. Because of this, I left earlier than usual and headed straight to the store. It was just after 9 p.m. and I pulled up to the 7-Eleven, parking alongside the side of the building, unobstructed windows spanning the entire length of the building, and it's well lit. I immediately noticed a gentleman in blue standing up on the sidewalk. I pay no mind but start gathering my things. My finger still really hurts though. I'm taking my time and cursing that gorgeous cat when I hear a man's voice mumble something. My window was partially open, but my windshield is already fogging up, and when I look up to see that he's walking towards my passenger side, he starts trying to open the door, but thank God my kids have broke that door handle and it won't open. I immediately step out of my car, and with me standing in my open door, looking out across the windshield, I say, "Excuse me, what are you doing?" And he starts saying over and over, "Are you yellow cab? Are you yellow cab?" And I say again, "I don't know you. I'm not letting you in my car." He realizes that he can't get in and people are watching, so he starts to walk away from my car and I run inside. I'm a little shaken up, but I try to sum it up to mistaken identity. We live in a small town and our cabs are just random cars. I'm walking around and trying to make sure that he isn't near my car, and at one point, I see him looking like he's walking away. I call my husband and tell him a little bit of what happened, just to hear him say it's probably nothing. Corn dogs in hand, I walk out and head towards my car. Visions of this guy in my backseat flashing through my head. I see him walking away from my car, but now he has a backpack. Something flashes on the side of the pack and it hits me. I didn't lock my door when I ran inside. This POS has my 5-year-old son's backpack. I thought that he might bolt, but he started walking back towards me instead. I said again, "That's my son's backpack," and he again starts saying, "Are you yellow cab? Are you yellow cab?" I yell louder, "That's my son's backpack. Give me it back." For a millisecond, I even considered the fact that this might not be my son's backpack and I panic. But I'm convinced the moment that I see the bus pass. This man is still going on about yellow cab and I looked at him furious. Mama Bear was upset. I take an extra long look at what he was wearing. Hospital blue pajama pants and a deep but vibrant blue hoodie, with a WOT logo and the O at some hemisphere lines of something in it. All of this happens in a few seconds and I just remember looking at him, upset, and telling him that he's asked for stealing the little kid's backpack and that he should get out of here. Maybe it's because I live in Canada, or maybe it was because I didn't leave the area where I could be seen, but he started walking away. I went inside immediately and told the clerks, but I don't think any of us knew what to do. For a second, I wasn't going to call the cops. It's just a backpack. But I just couldn't help but think about him trying to get into my car with me in it, so I did call the police. I started telling them what was happening, and then I saw the guy again. I followed him while I was on the phone and I parked way ahead of him. And time passed quickly when you're on the phone with the cops and the guy passed by my car. He turns back and sees that it's me and turns around. I haven't turned off my car, so I panic, but I shift into drive and start driving away. The man wasn't scared. He was actually walking back to my car. As I'm driving away, I tell the officer, "What the F I was thinking, this is so dangerous. I gave you his description and his general location, I'm going home." We finished the conversation on the way and I gave them my info and the guys. I don't know why I followed him. I follow a lot of true crime and I guess I just couldn't not report a man trying to get into my car. I told the police the same. I got off the phone and I went inside. My husband is good at pointing out people's hardships, and it is clear this man had mental health issues, and I suppose some addiction issues. He was rather thin with large scabs on his face. He kind of dumbed down how I feel about it, but I think that's why I wanted to write this. What happened, it scared me, and I don't know why I did what I did. All of it seems pretty stupid. I approached the guy and I drove after him. God, I'm ridiculously slow sometimes. I did get the backpack back, but it was stupid. I received a phone call 5 minutes before I started writing this and the police had got in. He's got to the station for the night because he is extremely intoxicated. The officer's words. We pulled up with our lights on and he asked if we were a yellow cab. A part of me feels like maybe he was just a drunk or something, but a part of me thinks this guy was using that as an excuse to why he would be thinking to get into my car. I definitely had an adrenaline rush and now I'm just kind of tired. Thanks for reading. It was a weird night.